What's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L, and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Now listen, man, I told y'all I used to be a rock star in a past life, bro. I used to be a rock star. I had to be, man, because anytime y'all send me one of these videos, I get hyped. Back when I was in college, I tried to live that rock star lifestyle from my dorm apartment. I tried to live that rock star lifestyle. It don't agree with you, man. It don't agree with you. But on a serious note, this video, man, rock stars who suffered the most tragic deaths, man. You know, I mean, what can you say, man? Some of these greats, bro, all of these greats, you know, taken from us too soon. Taken from us too soon, man. They didn't even probably get to reach their full potential at all. You know what I mean? They probably still had great music to bestow upon us, you know, great things to do, see, accomplish, and they were taken from us probably at a young age. Maybe they did get to see, you know, do a lot. But I always believe there was still more to be done, man. You know what I mean? So we're going to get into this video. If you're new to the channel, man, hit the subscribe button, join the family, and let's go.
The phrase live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse became reality for many rock stars. From overdoses to suicide to horrible accidents, the following rock stars died tragic deaths. On the morning of February 3, 1959, early rock and roll icons Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and J.P. Richardson, known as the Big Bopper, died in a plane crash while touring together through the Midwest. The event became known as the day the music died and saw the first premature deaths of young and popular musicians in the early history of the genre. The crash also had a large impact on one of their contemporaries, according to Magic. Eddie Cochran was a part of the first wave of rock and roll stars, along with the three musicians who passed. His songs, Summertime Blues and 20 Flight Rock, became early classics in the genre and very popular among his teenage fan base. His appearance in films such as The Girl Can't Help It and Go Johnny Go helped his popularity grow. But according to John Collis's biography, Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran, after the deaths of Holly, Valens, and Richardson, Cochran became obsessed with his own death, believing it was around the corner. While touring in the United Kingdom in 1960 with fellow musician Gene Vincent, Cochran's premonition came true.
It's the power of your words right there. That's the power of your words. You know what I'm saying? They said the same thing about Biggie Smalls. You know, his album titles, things he was saying in his music. It's the power. I wholeheartedly believe in that, man. The power of your words. Be careful what you say, because what you put out into the universe, man, you attract. You bring it back, bro. Don't speak death upon your life like that. And I know he was probably feeling like some Final Destination type stuff, to where maybe, you know, they died and maybe he should have died, or he felt like he was supposed to be on that plane, or whatever the case was. Your words are powerful, man. The tongue, the mighty tongue is powerful, bro. We gotta start speaking, you know what I'm saying? Speaking life into ourselves, speaking all positive things, not that death and negativity.
Following a performance on Saturday, April 16th, Vincent, Cochran, and others were involved in a single-car accident. Cochran died the next day, Easter Sunday, at the age of 21. He was the only one killed in the crash.
See what I mean? See what I mean? The only person killed in the crash.
Third time's the charm, they say. Released in 1971, the Allman Brothers band's third album, At Fillmore East, launched them to superstardom after their first two albums failed commercially. The live album is hailed as a masterpiece today. Rolling Stone ranked it number 49 on their 500 greatest albums of all time. The band's strength and leader was their guitarist, Duane Allman. Allman had spent the mid to late 1960s as a must-have studio guitarist, working with artists such as Aretha Franklin, Wilson Pickett, and fellow guitar god Eric Clapton. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top said this of Allman's guitar playing to Rolling Stone: Duane began doing things no one had ever done before. He was just a stunning and singular musician who was gone way too soon. On October 29, 1971, Allman was driving his motorcycle through Macon, Georgia, when he hit a stopped truck. His bike jumped in the air and landed on him, causing internal injuries. Though still conscious when he was taken to the hospital, the guitarist died hours later. The band continued without their leader, but tragedy struck again just a year later. On November 11, 1972, bassist Barry Oakley hit a bus while driving his own motorcycle and died from cerebral swelling. The accident took place a few blocks from Allman's fatal crash. Both men were 24 and are buried next to each other at Rose Hill Cemetery in Macon, WGXA reports. Mama Cass Elliott's weight has followed her through...
Jeez, bro. And I'll be sitting here telling my brother, because he's just this motorcycle, you know what I mean, is in his veins, in his blood, and he motorcycle this, motorcycle that. He done joined the motorcycle club. And you know what I mean? I just be trying to tell him, man, be careful, because I've always heard it's not if, it's when you lay that bike down. You know what I'm saying? That a lot of people say it's bound to happen. It's gonna happen at some point in time. So I be stressing to him, be careful, man, because there's no protection. None. You know what I'm saying? Once, like the first dude, the bike landed on him. I'm bad. But the bike landed on him. So it's no protection on you. I be trying to tell him, man, be careful, bro. Be careful.
WGXA reports. Mama Cass Elliott's weight has followed her throughout her life and death. As a part of the folk pop group The Mamas and the Papas, Elliott became a household name. However, John Phillips initially didn't want to put her in the band because of her weight, a fact that came to light in Elliott's biography, Dream a Little Dream of Me. After The Mamas and the Papas ended, Elliott still maintained a steady career in music and television. On July 29, 1974, she passed away from a heart attack in London, England at 32 years old. Even in death, Elliott's weight was still the story. A vicious, completely fabricated rumor spread that she died choking on a ham sandwich. Many publications, such as Time, ran with the now debunked ham sandwich story.
Are you serious? Are you serious? You'd have tried that in today's time, with today's social media? They'd have ate you alive talking about that lady choked on a ham sandwich, bro. They'd have ate you. And the fact that news publications ran with that, come on, man.
According to The Guardian, Elliott's daughter, Owen, who was 7 at the time of her mother's death, angrily called the rumor, quote, one last slap at the fat lady. At the time of her death, Cass was staying in a flat owned by singer Harry Nilsson that he loaned to her for her shows in England. The flat would become infamous for another death 4 years later. No rock musician lived life to the fullest more so than Keith Moon. His chaotic drumming made him a legend, placing him second on Rolling Stone's list of the 100 greatest drummers, and was the driving force behind one of the greatest bands of the era, The Who. Bandmate Roger Daltrey told GQ that Moon, quote, lived his entire life as a fantasy. Moon helped create many of the stereotypes that still exist today in rock and roll, like smashing hotel rooms and his own instrument, outrageous spending, and frequent alcohol and drug use that usually landed him in trouble.
So when people say, Keith, have you ever smashed up a hotel room? I say, yes, well, 3 in one fell swoop.
On January 4th, 1970, Moon and his entourage left a pub mobbed with skinheads that were harassing him. While trying to escape, Moon took the wheel of the car and accidentally ran over his friend, killing him. The judge cleared Moon of the 3 charges he pled guilty to, drunk driving, driving without a license, and driving without insurance, because of the circumstances at the pub. However, his friend Larry Smith recounted to VH1's Behind the Music that the moment had an effect on the drummer that he never fully recovered from. Smith said that Moon was shell-shocked. Moon's demise came 8 years later on September 7, 1978. He was pronounced dead at the age of 32 from an overdose of Hymenevrin.
He couldn't take it. He couldn't take it no more. That's tough to live with, man. You trying to get away from? They said it was skinheads. He was trying to get away from skinheads, and you run over your own friend, bro. That's tough to live with. That's tough. I'm not saying, you know what I mean, that I condone what he did. None of that. I don't support it, but I can definitely understand what he was going through. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Wow. Bro.
He died at the same age and in the same room where Mama Cass died 4 years prior.
I would never stay there. The same room?
It is understandable to forget about a band's frontman when the lineup also features the likes of Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. That's what has happened to Keith Relf of the Yardbirds. When American blues music hit England in the late 1950s and early 1960s, bands like the Rolling Stones, who were named after a popular Muddy Waters song according to biography, and the Yardbirds formed with the desire to put their own touch on the music they loved. For Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 100 greatest artists, frontman Steven Tyler of Aerosmith described the difference between Relf and the more popular frontman for the Stones, Mick Jagger. He was a white boy who pushed it to the max, and he was a great harmonica player. You never heard Jagger hanging out on a single note the way Keith Relf could. After the Yardbirds fell apart in 1968, Relf continued his music career with various bands while his more well-known bandmates achieved greater commercial and critical success throughout the 1970s. According to Ultimate Classic Rock, on May 14, 1976, while playing an electric guitar in his basement, Relf accidentally electrocuted himself, ending his life. He was 33 years old. When Paul Butterfield was only a teenager, he was already being tutored and performing with blues legend Muddy Waters in Chicago. The Paul Butterfield Blues Band helped popularize blues music, a predominantly African-American genre, to a white audience. Living in Chicago, Butterfield was at the epicenter for the blues, as artists such as Waters, Willie Dixon, and Little Walter lived and performed on Chicago's South Side. The rhythm section for his band, Sam Lay and Jerome Arnold, were hired from blues legend Howlin' Wolf. Butterfield's aggressive blues harmonica playing led his bandmate and friend Michael Bloomfield to call him, quote, the finest blues harmonica player in the world at the Newport Folk Festival.
If he was green, it wouldn't make any difference. If he was a planaria, a tuna fish sandwich, Butterfield would be into the blues.
Amid the backdrop of the early and mid-1960s, Butterfield would defend his racially integrated band and often get into confrontations with racist concertgoers, according to guitarist Paul Fiden in the Horn from the Heart documentary. Butterfield was a living legend during his time. Author and journalist Grail Marcus said that during Woodstock, he saw other musicians from the band and Blood, Sweat, and Tears act, quote, deferential toward Butterfield. By the mid-1980s, Butterfield had reportedly developed a heroin addiction which had put a financial strain on him, and he'd been hurt by the recent loss of many of his close friends like Bloomfield, Waters, and his manager Albert Grossman. On May 4, 1987, Butterfield died of a drug overdose at the age of 44. From Oasis's Liam and Noel Gallagher, to the Kinks' Ray and Dave Davies, to the Jackson 5's Michael and Jermaine Jackson, sibling rivalries are not uncommon in music.
Yes, there's always rivalry, tension between people who are related, but that sometimes helps music.
However, few were as tumultuous and tragic as Creedence Clearwater Revival's feud between their two guitarists.
I'm familiar with this band. I'm familiar with them. What?
John and Tom Fogerty. Despite being the younger sibling, John became the band's driving force, taking over all the singing and songwriting duties previously held by his brother. Tom did not enjoy losing control of his band to John, but John's control of the band drove it to superstardom in the late 1960s. After the 1970 album Pendulum, Tom left the band. 2 years later, CCR dissolved from more internal conflict between John and the two remaining members. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, court documents show that John became entangled in a series of contemptuous legal fights with the head of Fantasy Records, Saul Zaentz. In these fights, Tom was firmly in Zaentz's camp. John described Tom as having, quote, some sort of weird Patty Hearst syndrome. During the 1980s, Tom was sadly infected with HIV from a blood transfusion. Even with death coming around, the brothers stayed at odds. Tom died of tuberculosis on September 6, 1990, at the age of 48. Most people first heard Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar on the hit David Bowie song
Stevie Ray.
Let's Dance. Bowie described his reaction to first hearing Vaughan in an interview with MTV in 1983.
This little kid from Austin, Texas, came out and just played some of the most devastating city rhythm and blues I've heard in years.
B.B. King described Vaughan's guitar playing to the Media America radio network as fluent and said, he could get something going and it would go on and ideas continuously flowed. Vaughan was a music legend to other legends. Throughout the 1980s, he released 4 studio albums with his band Double Trouble. His guitar abilities placed him number 12 on Rolling Stone's list of the 100 greatest guitarists, and Vaughan is credited for helping to repopularize blues music during the decade.
Hey, he was number 12. Now I gotta know the other 11 before him. Because I always thought he was like the best. You already know I know little to nothing. I'm just learning. I'm getting into rock music. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, I'm able to identify some of the people on this list. But I always thought it was Stevie Ray was one of the best. So I need to know who's the other 11 up there now.
Unfortunately, during the early morning of August 27, 1990, his career came to an abrupt end. According to Guitar World, Double Trouble had played 2 shows with Eric Clapton, Buddy Guy, Robert Cray, and Stevie's older brother Jimmy Vaughan in East Troy, Wisconsin. Stevie Ray then boarded a helicopter to fly back to Chicago, but it crashed, killing all 4 passengers as well as the pilot. He was 35 years old. 1 month later, Vaughan's last album of original material, Family Style, was released as a duet album with his brother. Though mostly known in the United States for a single song, Kirsty MacColl was regarded as one of the finest artists of her generation in the United Kingdom. The BBC reported that U2 frontman Bono called MacColl, quote, the Noel Coward of her generation. Johnny Marr of The Smiths said she had, quote, the wit of Ray Davies and the harmonic invention of the Beach Boys. Her duet with the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York, has become a modern-day holiday season classic. Jim Feiner, songwriter and banjoist of the Pogues, told The Guardian that he questioned whether MacColl could handle her side of the duet, but lead singer Shane MacGowan had been a fan of her music and said she could make a song her own, and she made Fairy Tale her own. On December 18, 2000, the 41-year-old singer and her 2 sons were swimming in Cozumel, Mexico, when a speedboat illegally entered the area they were in. She moved one of her sons out of the way of the boat, but was struck and killed instantly. Kirsty's mother, Jean MacColl, launched a one-woman crusade for justice, believing that the Mexican government hadn't been forthcoming throughout the investigation. The boat was owned by businessman Carlos Gonzalez Nova, who was on the boat. Deckhand Jose Sin Yam was found guilty of culpable homicide, although according to Kirsty's biography, written by her mother, Yam's wife and father-in-law both said he was not actually the driver. December 8th is a somber day in music history. The night of December 8, 1980, former Beatles guitarist and songwriter John Lennon was shot in the back by a crazed former fan, Mark David Chapman, while walking into his New York City apartment building. 24 years later, another legendary guitar player would be murdered on the same day. While performing with his new band, Damage Plan, Darrell Abbott, known as Dimebag Darrell, was shot during his band's set. He was 38. In 1981, Darrell helped form the heavy metal band Pantera, and his guitar riffs helped drive the band to success. And
how do you shoot somebody during a performance, fam? That they putting on for you, the fans. You got that much hatred for somebody that you shoot them in the middle of their, like, bro, it's people out here that are ruthless, man. Ruthless.
Until they split in 2003. Pantera reshaped the metal genre over their 2-decade run. Pantera's drummer, Darrell's older brother, Vinnie Paul Abbott, said of the band in an interview with Rolling Stone in 1992, "We pulled the very best out of each one of ourselves, and with each record that we made, that mountain got taller and taller to climb." The gunman, Nathan Gale, also took the lives of 3 other people: club employee Aaron A. Hulk, fan Nathan Bray, and Damage Plan crew member Jeff Mayhem Thompson. Gale was killed by Columbus police officers minutes after the shooting. Rolling Stone reports that another fan saw Gale waiting in the parking lot prior to the show and asked him if he wanted to come inside to stay warm. He responded that he was, quote, gonna wait for Damage Plan. In the documentary Once Were Brothers, Robbie Robertson and the...
I don't feel bad for the fan that the cop shot. I don't feel bad, man. Like, for what? You took that man's life. Young, full of life, had his life ahead of him, bro. What gives you the right to take somebody's life? That's what I don't understand. You know what I mean? Nobody did nothing to you or was in the act of doing anything. Your life was at jeopardy. And if it was, then I don't know, then it is what it is. But it probably wasn't. So you shouldn't have took that man's life like that, man.
The band, musician Taj Mahal said of the band, if there were any American musicians that were comparable to what the Beatles were, it would have been them. The band featured, among others, drummer Lee Von Helm, bassist Rick Danko, and de facto lead vocalist and multi-instrumentalist Richard Manuel, known for having a very soulful voice and the ability to sing in falsetto. Despite his immense talent, though, Manuel struggled throughout his life with alcohol and drug addiction. In 1977, the group split up but reformed 6 years later without guitarist and lead songwriter Robbie Robertson. On the early morning of March 4, 1986, following a show in Winter Park, Florida, Manuel took his own life. He was 42 years old. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255.
I want to go back. I know I joke around a lot. I know we have a lot of fun. But on a serious note, on a serious video, just like this one, I want to kind of leave that number up there, bro. If you know somebody or you are the person that needs to talk, man, utilize that number. If that number is not the same to which they just made this video, so it should be, talk to somebody, bro. Reach out. Talk it out. There's people out here that love you, man, and you mean something to them, even if you don't feel like you do, man. Your life is precious, bro. So talk to somebody. You know what I mean? It's your boy L, man. Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think, man. A lot of you guys were around during some of these deaths. What was the times like, man? What did these bands mean to you? Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what y'all thought. Till the next reaction, I'm out. Peace. Y'all stay solid. Hey.